Welcome everyone to the presentation from No on 9 Until Now, a multi-generational approach to ally development and creating affirming environments. I'm Dr. Lori Soli, Dr. Lori Lowe Soli for some of you, and my co-presenter. I am blessed and graced to be able to be co-presenting this with my daughter, Molly McArt. And you all know what I do, but I'm going to turn it over to Molly for just a second to tell you where she's coming from and what she's doing. And then I would love everybody to just, if you could all just bring your voice to the circle so that we can all just hear you and get a visual on you, that would be just terrific. I want this to be an inclusive environment, and that means that everybody has a voice and has a face, and we are all here together.
Well, hi guys, my name is Molly McArt. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I work as a program coordinator for a nonprofit called Labor's Community Service Agency. And we provide supportive services to union members and union member allies. And it goes across the whole spectrum from helping them with the housing crisis to we just started a program to help serve underprivileged populations with childcare, which is something very near and dear to my heart as a single mother, very, very near and dear to getting more people into these lucrative trades so that we can be holding hands and helping lift people out of the circle of poverty. So it's very rewarding work. And I'm very, very grateful to be here with my mom.
And I'm just actually going to kind of start to kind of name people off because I know these introductions can take a long time. Victoria, I see you, so let's start with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Victoria. In my second year in this program, I'm just excited to, actually witness the first virtual conference. So thank you guys for presenting, and hello everyone. Hi, Dr. Hudson. And
Dr.
thank you, Molly.
Oh, of course.
Dr. Hudson, you're not on mute. Go ahead. And then we'll go Dr. Crowley, Giovanni, and Dr. TRW.
All right.
Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Danita Hudson. Hi, Molly. It's a pleasure to meet you. I was so excited to see that your mom was presenting with you. I don't know what to say other than it's just been a joy to do this all day, and I'm just so happy to see so many students participate. So I want to thank you all for attending as well.
And I am Dr. Crowley. I am also an instructor here at the CMHC online program. And Molly, it is wonderful to see you again. I have had the pleasure of actually meeting Molly in person. And so I'm excited that you're presenting with your mother. And I'm excited that you guys are presenting on this topic. And like you, Dr. Hudson, I am so impressed with these students who have been in attendance throughout the day. I think it's a remarkable testament to the importance of the virtual conference. But I also think it's a remarkable testament to the dedication of our students.
Agreed. Giovanni.
Hey everyone, my name is Giovanni. I'm in my second year. I'm just having a really good time just seeing it, hearing everybody and what they have to share. And yeah, I'm having a great time. Thank you.
Awesome. And you missed it, but Dr. LA had noted how impressed she was with the capacity that you have to be able to be present with us and still remain on a treadmill. So we were all quite jealous of that capacity. So well done.
No problem.
So I'm going to go Dr. TRW, then Dr. LA, and then Katie.
Okay. Hi, I'm Tiffany Rush Wilson. I'm talking to you from Toronto, Ontario. Lori, I'm really happy to see your face. And Molly, it's really great to meet you. And then Dr. This is awesome. Great job.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been enjoying this. This is Dr. LA, department chair, and I'm calling you from literally the middle of downtown Raleigh, North Carolina right now. And I've just been so energized by this virtual conference and have actually become a little emotional a couple of times today with the power of it. And just really I think this is a true testament to our program, and I'm just really excited about it. And Molly, just having you here just makes it all the better. So glad to have family here.
Thank you.
So Katie, then Shani, then Shanta.
Hi, I'm Katie. This, I think, is my 5th presentation today, and I plan on attending the other ones as well because they've just been so rewarding to be in and such like a wealth of knowledge from the people speaking. And I'm incredibly grateful that this is virtual because I'm actually sick right now. So if it wasn't virtual, I wouldn't be able to attend. So this has more than just the benefits of a nationwide outreach. So
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, Shani, then Shanta, then Therese. Shani, can I talk you into coming on camera and introducing yourself? Maybe not. Okay, how about you, Shanta? Shantae, I'm not sure how to say your name. I apologize.
Maybe that. No.
Oh, okay, how about
Dr. Soli?
Therese? Yes.
I was just going to say
Yeah.
Shanta and Shanta and Shani are both at work, so they just may not be able to be on
Oh,
camera
okay.
at the moment.
I got it. I got it. Okay. Great. Therese, how about you?
I was fooling around with the audio when I first got on, so I have no idea what you want me to say.
I wanted you to just be on camera for a second, bring your voice to the circle, and just say hello and introduce yourself just really briefly.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. This first annual, I guess we will say, maybe it's going to be biannual. We'll find out soon. Virtual conferencing has been a wonderful experience for me. It's not about the points. I've attended all of them because it's about learning. It's about understanding everyone's passion. It's about hearing them talk from that fire within and just seeing that come out of all of my professors and my esteemed colleagues. I mean, I couldn't be more happy to learn what it is that motivates each one of us to do this job. So, been an experience. I can't believe Dr. Ellie told me I was the first one. Like, I am so happy I did not know that because that might have changed the entire presentation. Some people can palpate my anxiety at times, so I'm very happy that was an unknown to me. I very much look forward to doing this again. I hope that more people can do this, and I do have some constructive feedback at a later time if y'all want.
I'm sure that there will be an opportunity for that. So
yeah, I hope that maybe some people could talk for 30 minutes, and maybe it would bring a couple others in who might not be able to endure the entire hour. That would be one thing that maybe we could offer at another time. Anyway, thank you. It's nice to meet all of you.
Jennifer, how about you? Jen's work. Right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for entertaining us and entertaining our need to see your faces and hear your voices. I really do appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to sharing my screen, which hopefully you can all see now. So very briefly, the outcomes that we are hoping for our presentation today are expanding your personal comfort and lexicon for enhanced ally building with friends, family members, and work colleagues, to identify how to create transformational learning opportunities for children and adults in family and work contexts, and to review an LGBTQ+ affirming audit suitable for use in the workplace or as a family activity. I'm going to say that the caveat to that is this is a very draft form. So as I go through this at the very end, any additions that you have for this, I would invite you to place into the chat pod, and we will gladly take your feedback. For those of you who have ever been to one of our residencies, you will recognize this quote, but I felt that it was particularly apt for our presentation today. This quote by Jeannie Rometty, I learned always to take on things I'd never done before. Growth and comfort do not coexist. So here we go. When Molly and I first started talking about this, we were like, we just, we have like this amazingly rich family lived history of intergenerational allyship. And we wanted to talk about it with other people. And but more than just sharing our own experience, we wanted to encourage and maybe equip others with how to do that. But we really felt like in order for you to get where we were coming from, it really did need to be more of an ethnographic journey. So we're just going to start out by talking about our journey and what brought us to be here talking to you today. So I'm going to let Molly take it over from there.
So when we were talking and brainstorming and really kind of trying to dig into this, the first thing I said to Mom was, or Dr. Soli, was...
you can say Mom.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, it all started with Grandpa, didn't it? And we kind of took a pause, said, yeah, it all started with Grandpa, didn't it? And my grandfather, her father, was an advocate for his era, a human rights activist, and my most fond memories of him were him just going on and on at Thanksgiving meals and every imaginable time about what we could do for underserved populations. And he was 90 years old at this point. This was somewhat radical, but that's what I grew up with. Like, this was my grandfather, somebody who I had deep respect for. And from the time I can remember, that was dinner table talk. That was for all of us to engage with. Even when I was 9 years old, that conversation was there. It was present, and he invited all of us grandkids to get in there and share our views, and for him to have a conversation with us about it. And those are my roots. Those are where I came from in a big way.
Just to add to that, I was around long before Molly, well, not that long, but a long time before Molly was. And what she speaks to about my father, that I don't think that my father ever knew any other way of being. From the time I was literally born, and then that was in the era of the dinosaurs, not really. I was born in 1963. And some of my very first, most vivid memories were of my father in our backyard in this ranch in Pullman, Washington, which, if any of you have ever been to Pullman, Washington, is very rural and some might call redneck. And my father was a university instructor there. And one of the things that he began the Hispanic equivalency program there, and stood up for those who couldn't have a voice at the university. I was regularly surrounded by people who were different than I was, and I didn't even know that was unusual until I was, I don't know, probably in the fourth grade, and somebody just like blurted out, like, why are you friends with so-and-so? And I was just floored. It was like, I'm sure that probably happened before, but like, I couldn't even fathom, like, well, why would I not be friends with that person? Well, they were, at that time, they were Black. And that was just so not okay. And I remember that just shook my world. But I never knew anything other than being an ally for people who didn't necessarily, who were marginalized. Now, that's not to say that my father didn't have his own biases. He absolutely did, just as each and every single one of us does. which kind of, I was raised with that, but then I organically became an ally of my own accord, based on my lived experiences, and this was particularly from my lived high school experiences. I was one of the first allies in my school, because one of my best friends came out to me as gay, and from that time forward, as a sophomore in high school, which was 1979, I have been an LGBTQ plus advocate, ally. I have spoken it, I've lived it, I've breathed it, and it has been an integrally impactful part of my life and the life of my children for since then. And so, while this presentation is really around LGBTQ plus allyship, I think allyship in and of itself, we can start out in one place and organically go somewhere else. And I became really an advocate for a different era of what needed to be spoken to. I have my own passion in my own areas, and so, and I took that advocacy on, and I continue to speak it and breathe it with my family, and not just my family of blood, my family of choice, my family of marriage, and also in different workplaces that I've been in over the years. And so those are pieces that those are generationally inherited, because had I had a different father who behaved in a different way in 1963 in rural Pullman, Washington, I would not be the woman that I'm sitting before you today.
Yeah. So from grandpa came mom, came me. And, the family tree of advocates kept growing, and it wasn't just at big family dinners with my grandfather that allyship and advocacy was talked about, but it was every day. Whenever I had a question for my mom about culture or about anything that felt different, or somebody said something that I didn't understand, I have these very vivid memories of her explaining things to me with an allyship approach, as a middle schooler, as an elementary school kid. And I think that being talked to in a way that I wasn't belittled. It wasn't, you don't need to worry about that stuff yet. Don't worry about that stuff. Just kind of getting it pushed aside because maybe it was a little uncomfortable. I'm sure those conversations were potentially a little uncomfortable whenever your child asks you a question about something that's kind of culturally tight at that moment. It kind of harnesses something in you for sure. But she took a breath and answered the question in a way that was developmentally appropriate while still allowing for me to explore that idea on my own, in my own way, and ask more questions. And then the family tree grows more. I have a 3.5-year-old son named Micah, and his very first ABC book was A is for activism, and that pretty much says it all. We'll be talking a little bit more about Micah pretty soon, but from what we're telling you, this starts from the roots up, and we keep on sharing these ideas, and they keep on growing with time, and as language changes and as our culture changes and as we need to shift with what is going on in present day, we are shifting with it. And I think that is that's vital with this shared ally building.
Thank you. And with the shared ally building too, what you're kind of what you're experiencing right now is, we're taking it back almost almost 100 years. My father was born in 1922. And, but, you know, there is no time like right now to start a family tree of ally building and of advocacy. And it just takes starting. And he had to start at some point in time. I do not know, I never knew my grandfather or I knew one of my grandparents ever, but I didn't know his parents. I never met them. They were both deceased when I was born. So I don't know what that was like for him, but from the stories that I've heard, it wasn't necessarily so much allyship, but in some ways it was. Ally building, one of the things, and this harkens back to a conversation that I had earlier with a very dear colleague of mine when I was talking about this presentation a little bit, just this passion that I have for it. And the topic of epigenetics came up. I said, I wouldn't really know how to do this presentation in any other way other than how I'm doing it, because I so deeply believe that, like, I didn't just learn what I learned from modeling. I do believe that there is an absorption epigenetically from generation to generation, and again that those energies epigenetically, those can start to right now. Molly didn't just learn this by modeling. Molly also inherited genetics that, she genetically got the love that I have for human beings. She genetically got the love that I have for nature. Just as people can genetically get, hatred and
I lost my ability to hear.
Dr. Soli, I can't hear you either.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Yeah, sound went out. Yeah. Right. Molly, you might want to pick it up where.
Yeah, I think I'm going to here. So this is the man that we've been speaking of, Grandpa, great grandpa, and Dr. Soli's father. They call him the Eye of the Ram, and my mom, when she ever does get back, will have to explain that one to you. And the next picture, which I cannot click over to because I'm not in control of this.
On your mom. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Is that's my guy. This is my little son, Micah. This is when my mom was visiting. So this just, as we all introduced each other and you guys got a little bit of, we got to see your faces, you got to see ours. Here is the, from roots to branch, our family of allies.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yay! Yes.
Okay, great. So the Eye of the Ram came from, my father was a hunter, and he shot a very large, and we ate. It was like food production. That was how he was raised. But he had a giant bighorn sheep that hung on the wall of in our home, and it had these eyes that were just piercing. And while you may not be able to see it from this picture, my father had the most piercingly beautiful blue eyes. And so I've always called him the Eye of the Ram, and have actually started a book entitled Eye of the Ram. So unfortunately, well, let me start out with fortunately, my father was alive when Micah was born, and so we were able to house literally 4 generations of Lowe's, McArt's, now Soli's in the room. He did My dad did, he passed away 2 years ago and faded from us slowly through Alzheimer's, which was dreadfully hard. But we know that his vision for a peaceful, beautiful world of acceptance continues to live on through us and us paying it forward. So I'm going to just start this out by asking you, what is your comfort with ally building in the work and family systems? Briefly, and I realize we're already running short on time, but I would maybe even just as you've heard us, maybe just if anybody would like to share maybe what your desire is, maybe what a roadblock might be, as you've heard us, as you've kind of taken this quote. Anybody want to just share anything briefly?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I guess for me, I've always kind of been an observer. I remember going to the Women's March and then going to the march that with the guns. I can't remember the name of it exactly. In Washington D.C., both of them, but just participating in them, but always feeling like I'm an observer, wanting to jump in, but just not knowing. And so I feel like observing for me is safer.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Giovanni. That's a really important thing, that sometimes it's safer to be the observer. And I guess I would ask you to lean into that a little bit and just wonder does that mean you're not an ally? Or are you just being an ally in a different way?
I guess for me, it just, when I think about observing, I think about processing what's around me. So if I'm able to observe, then I'm able to process, because I feel that I'm not someone who can react in an objective way. When I'm in a situation like that, I would react more from a very emotional perspective, and that can kind of not exactly always be the best choice for me.
Mm-hmm. That almost sounds like that could be a roadblock. Go ahead.
I think that you're on the right track there, though, to a certain extent, because there is this space where we consider and we observe and we learn before we take action. And from my experience, that is how I go about most things. I take some space. Pre-decision making is essentially where I put it, and then from there, you can feel your feelings with that too, right? You have that space to just emotionally gather yourself and then move forward into action. And so where you're at isn't wrong or bad. It's this space before, and I honor that. And my mom does too. We all have that space, and maybe this presentation will help you kind of on your road to action. Mom?
Okay.
Okay.
So the next thing that we just wanted to introduce to you, and I'm going to kind of turn this one over to Molly as well, is just the notions of languaging and lexicon. Like, how does our language, what we say, what we don't say, how does that make a difference?
Yeah, so this is a really big one, and it's pertinent to where we are in society today. And so when my mom and I were talking about this, to ask or not to ask, that's the question. And it can be, a lot of people feel that roadblock of, do I just not say anything and progress forward from there, just kind of tiptoeing around? Or do I ask the question, what are your pronouns? What, do you have certain language that you would prefer I use with you? These can be uncomfortable questions. There's no way of really getting around that until you get in the habit of asking those questions. You know, and being brave in that. You know, and with that, we're asking you guys, you know, what are you ready, willing, and able to do to expand your comfort with dialoguing in an affirming manner? And that is a question to all of you. If any of you would like to speak to that, then I would love to hear that. And if not, then it's just something for you to ruminate on. But all in all, this is an encouraging public service announcement on use your words. You know, to be an ally is to ask. And there's resources at the very end for ways to go about that, and I really encourage you to check some of those out. If you have any questions or any thoughts on what that looks like and some examples of those. Do you have anything to add, Mom?
I don't. I'm curious what others think. We we talk about we talk a lot about being, I mean, and especially in the counseling profession, of being the one to lead, to be the one to open the door. And yet, I realize it's funny, I've been to several presentations today where I feel like these topics there's a lot of this going around today, which is a beautiful thing. But there's a lot of sort of asking, like, really like having people examine, like, where do I stand with this? Like, am I comfortable? Am I comfortable? Am I willing to do that? What am I willing to do with myself? How am I willing to show that I'm comfortable and affirming? So I would really be interested in hearing from you what your experiences, whether that be from the stance of a person doing so or on the receiving end, or what you've noticed with peers or colleagues or in your own workplace. I think that the story is almost as important as just the words. So I'm curious what other people have experienced around this and what your thoughts are.
Dr. Soli?
Yes.
I was just going to say Victoria has a question. Well, she had a comment in the chat.
Oh, okay. Great. So Victoria said that I always ask for pronouns, that I'm aware if someone is not part of LGBTQ+, I would prefer to be uncomfortable asking than risk offending someone who may be non-binary, transgender, etc. That's fantastic, Victoria. That's exactly if I could say, it's that again. It's within our environment. It's it's like suicide. Like, it's not necessarily going to be taken as offensive if you ask, but it may be really bad. The outcome may be really bad if you don't, and that is part of your responsibility. So thanks.
And I'm an active part of the LGBTQ community within Portland, and this is really a huge point right now of just do it, just ask. And the more that becomes the norm, the more comfortable it will get. And although I'm a big fan of people getting uncomfortable, that is where growth happens. There's this time where it is uncomfortable, and then we kind of move past it and get into that comfort zone with it. And that's kind of where we want to be. And then there's going to be something else later down the road about a different topic that we'll have to get uncomfortable with again. The discomfort never truly ends. It's just, it comes in waves. So us as a community of advocates and allies, we all need to, I'm sorry, here we go. We all just need to be, oh dear, here. Sorry, I'm at work too. We all need to get into that comfort zone after the discomfort.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some actionable steps. One of the things that I had mentioned earlier was I had said creating transformative learning opportunities. I use creating loosely. For one thing, I think that we can always create transformative learning opportunities when we're willing to open our mouths. So we've got a few examples of this. The first one is Micah and some friends of ours and their hair. I don't know, Molly, do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yes, I would love to.
Or do you want me to? Do you need to take the call?
No, it's okay. I got it. So Micah is 3.5 years old, and he has not gotten his first haircut yet. And it is long and blonde and beautiful in every way. However, whenever I go to the grocery store, people refer to Micah as she, her. That doesn't truly bother me at all, and it doesn't bother Micah at all. So I don't really bother correcting. And from my judgment as a parent is Micah will at some point decide what Micah's pronouns are, and that will happen in time, and that is up to him to decide. And one thing that I would like to talk about quickly is my experience with that, being an active ally for Micah and also just for people in general. 2 Christmases ago, I was at my father's house, and my dad was talking to me about Micah's hair and how it needed to get cut because Micah looks like a girl, and that's not okay. And I said, no, it is. It's okay. It's fine. And also, Micah at this point, that's not something on his radar, and I'm not worried about that. And my dad looked at me and said, well, boys are boys and girls are girls, and that's it. And then he looked in Micah's eyes and said, Micah, boys are boys and girls are girls, and that is all that there is. And I had a pretty strong reaction to that, not just because the seeds that we plant in our children start very young, but because it's unacceptable for that to be said in general. So I took Micah in my arms and I left the house on Christmas Day. And And it turns out that my dad and I have not had a conversation about Micah's hair ever since. So that was a win.
And I've had the experience of being with some with a friend of mine's children who have who also have longer hair, beautiful, one wears his in a little man bun, and but even like I was out with them doing something and someone in a store said something about, oh, well, wouldn't she like this? And I just looked at this person very calmly and said, this person identifies as a he right now. And they looked at me like I had just dropped from Mars. And I thought, we're in 2018. Are you serious right now? But I didn't, I just chose not to let it go. And those are some of the things that I really, I guess I take a really active stance with that. My sisters have commented on Micah's hair, and I have said that is a choice that Molly is making right now. It is, it's not about gender, it's about his hair. I have a lot of examples from family. The last time I was visiting, which was literally just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was with Molly. I was staying with her, and one of her friends was having bottom surgery. And I was headed back up to Portland, and I was telling my two sisters, both of whom you heard how old my father is. My sisters are both probably almost close to a generation above me, 14 and 19 years older than I am. But I was chatting with one of them, and and oh well, we're going to take this person some food because she just had bottom surgery. And she wheeled around and she said, "What?" And I said, "Oh, she had bottom surgery. She's going through, she's transitioning to be she's a transgender, and she's having bottom surgery to transition her her genitalia so that she matches her identity." And my sister turned white as a ghost and went, "Oh, well, I thought it might be hemorrhoid surgery or something." And I said, "No, it's bottom surgery, and that's what it's called. If you listen, you'll probably hear the term again." And I wasn't mean. I was very clear. I wasn't derogatory, but I was also very clear. I had the same, almost identical conversation with my other sister when we were driving up to Portland to take me back to Molly's. Just another really quick, and this is a very, very poignant one for me, is the family that I've married into. I have a transgender nephew. And the last time I visited them, the family, my husband's brother was there, and he continued to refer to his son as a girl. And in front of the entire family, I said, "That's really inappropriate to do. That is not how we refer to Kaylin anymore. His name is Kaylin. He is not Kayla. He is not a she. He is Kaylin, and that is his name, and that has." And he got very defensive and was like, and I thought I was probably going to throw up, to be honest with you, because this is not a gender affirming family at all. But I stood my ground. And I just said, well, I can appreciate, he was like, well, that's what it's always been. And I said, and that's not what it is now. And I just got quiet and went back to my computer. So I always have my computer on my lap when I'm there. But it felt divine to actually be able to say that. And I think that the spirit with which Molly and I have kind of tried to portray this is that a lot of it comes from not being agitated or angry, but simply from delivering the message in a place of sacred ground, standing our place. And I'm realizing that, true to form, we now have 15 minutes left. So I want to talk a little bit about ally shift, and then I'm going to continue to move us forward.
So briefly, ally shift. I went to a conference last week. Some Portland folks were talking about work systems, and one of the breakout sessions was about how to become a better ally in your work system. And a technological company from Prosper Portland designed a program, peer-to-peer program on getting people together and saying, hey, how can we be better allies to other people? And it was a train the trainer. So one person who's been trained trains the next group of people, or person to train the next group of people to train, etc. And that has shown amazing results in the workplace. Peer-to-peer, train the trainer, on a lot of the stuff we're talking about here, on how to be an ally, what questions to ask, and how to just sit in discomfort but work through it.
And Molly is working on getting that resource for us. It's not resourced at the end of the presentation, but when I send out a couple of sheets that we do have for you, which if anybody wants them, I guess that would be the bigger question, but we'll make sure that we have that information in there for you, which I think just wraps through to, as really everybody on this call sits in privilege. That just, I think the capacity to the fact that we can even talk about being an ally or having allies or have this conversation highlights the privilege that we have. And I think sometimes part of our learning curve, and I think that I will say this particularly for counselors, is not just owning that we have privilege, but also learning how to use it, how to be comfortable with the fact that we have it, even if it's uncomfortable. And how to use that to help create equity for the unseen and the unheard and the underserved. And that doesn't always have to be big and loud and out there. Sometimes it is, and I'm going to go back actually to Giovanni, sometimes it's being physically present. And that in and of itself is very loud in many, many situations. And so like it's a privilege to be able to be seen. But I'm just going to encourage everybody to think about that as you continue forward, and that this whole thing is about planting seeds. It's about planting seeds in your family and planting seeds in your workplace. But I would be remiss if I did not briefly mention safety. As a person as a white person, as an educated person, I sit in a place of deep privilege. And even within that stance, there are places where I can't necessarily have the voice that I would want to have because it would be unsafe for me to have it there. So I think it's always important for us to remain mindful for ourselves. What is safe, what is not safe, and to really I just want to really say that none of this is meant to encourage you to do anything that you are uncomfortable with, ever. And I think I'm going to skip this slide, actually. I want to just really briefly share our audit questions with you, and then I want to just have time to open it up for discussion before I know we're going to get kicked out of here. So we created a very, very rough tool, and I'm sure thousands of better ones out there, but I'm not going to lie, I just quite simply did not manage to get it all drafted or read or researched. But this is a work in progress, much like being an ally. So I just kind of went with it. So here are some of the ideas that we came up with for, this is a lot of words on a page. But, part of doing an audit is really starting to ask targeted, intentional questions of ourselves. And then we can really blow that out and translate these questions for an organization by translating the I into the office or the organization or the employees or the leadership. So asking, do I know and own my own privilege? Have I spent time unpacking my privilege, looking for and unlocking biases? Do I have known biases I need to address, even if it's uncomfortable? And I know for many of you on this call, like we ask you to do this routinely, but our lived experience shapes us and changes us daily, and our biases therefore change with our lived experience. It's important to continue to do this on an ongoing basis, not just once, not just one and done. Do I know what the pronouns mean? If not, there are resources for that. Do I model acceptance? And notice I said acceptance, not tolerance. Affirming acceptance. There's a huge difference between tolerating and affirming. Do I have ally language on my website if I have a personal website? Do I use it on my social media? Do I have an affirming visuals within my space, within my home, within my office if I have an home office? 5, microaggressions. There have been several fantastic presentations today on microaggressions. What are my assumptions about gender development and identity? Do I open the door to conversations rather than signal discomfort? So these are just a few. I would love your ideas and any ideas, any thoughts that you have for adding to this. I think that Molly and I will probably try to continue to develop this out. And I do have this as a handout for you if you would like to see it.
And we can put the handouts in the advising forum, Lori.
Perfect. So at the end of the day, we need to stand our sacred ground. And I think we just have to ask ourselves, what is it? What are we willing to do? What are we willing to be? What are we willing to know? What are we willing to do? And I just want to finish this off. I realize we are just on the verge of out of time, but I feel very privileged to have been able to have this conversation with you. I feel like Molly and I are far from being the be all and the end all and the know all and the do all. Our hope was really just to model for you some transparency, perhaps ignite some passion, some excitement in you to look at your own ally journey and continue down it. Molly, do you have anything to add before we just go to questions and comments from our people?
No, this has been phenomenal.
So I open it up to you, gentle attendees. Any thoughts as we finish up?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Or maybe like advice, which I know it goes against like the counseling, but so I recently have been taking care of my cousin who came out as transgender, and his parents are very not supportive. And in an effort to allow him to have his own coming out process, he does not want his parents to know at this time, and so I've been struggling with using the appropriate pronouns because I don't want to out him to his parents, but I want to respect his pronouns. So if you can just speak to maybe how to navigate that, if you have any experience or any suggestions for that.
I can, as a parent of a transgender child. It's been horrible trying to figure that out. Sorry to jump in, Lori.
No, you go.
One of the things that has been most challenging for me is the pronouns. That has absolutely been it, especially in, as Erin is deciding, who will know and who will not know. And so one of the things that I've worked really hard, and I'm not perfect. I mess up on a regular basis, but I try to use Erin, or I try to use the name instead of a pronoun until we can settle on what that pronoun might be.
Yeah, and the difficulty with that is that he has since changed his name as well. So trying to use the right name and trying to, use his birth name to his parents it's just been really complicated. And I just want to, honor who he feels he is authentically.
I guess one thing that pops to the top of my head is kind of like other things that I would say to anybody who's struggling with how, is take it back to him.
Yeah.
Talk about
pick a nickname.
Yeah.
Like maybe you guys can come up with a nickname. Like I call my older child Boo. I've always called my older child Boo. And so that's a common ground that hasn't changed, right? And so maybe there's a nickname or something that you can both agree on that the parents wouldn't be triggered by.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Actually, I love that.
And again, not trying to take away from Lori or Molly, but
no.
Oh no, thank you. Yeah, deeply appreciated. another thing I'd just like to mention on that is going back to safety. If it's a situation where the parents, there's emotional harm or any kind of harm that could be taken out on your cousin, you know, I think you're definitely doing the right thing to make sure that safety is protected. So really good job on that. It is tough, and I think that bringing it back to your cousin and kind of developing that conversation from there. Nicknames are great, but safety first, always. Truly.
All right. Well, I see people starting to pop in for the next presentation. I hope that you're able to fill out the evaluation. Thank you so much for your time, your participation, your energy today, everyone. It was great to have you here, and I look forward to seeing most of you in the circles in which we normally interact. Thank you so much.
Well, I just want to thank Molly for being here. Molly, it has been a pleasure having you here, and you know, we definitely extend, you know, the CMHC family welcome to you, and you're part of our family by extension, and we just are so glad to have you participating in this with us.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor and a privilege, and maybe we'll get to do this again sometime.
Hawaii 2020.
Hawaii. There we go.
All right. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, our next presentation in the room is going to be counseling human trafficking. Oh, am I on the right time? Yeah, counseling human trafficking survivors in private practice. I'm sorry, I'm confused with my Eastern Standard Time and my Central Time, so forgive me. Dr. E, are you here?
Here.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
And I got messed up on my times earlier, Dr. Hudson. So.
Yeah, it's killing me.
You had a long day.
Yeah. All right. And is Jacera here with you?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Jacera!
Hi.
We've seen so many people today. It's awesome to have you guys here. Thank you for being here.
Awesome.
And Dr. E, thank you for being here too. You're amazing too.
No offense to that.
All right, Dr. E, I'll turn it over to you. I am going to let me stop the recording and